You're listening to Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast. Two friends since first grade, now dads reliving the Disney movies we grew up on with our own kids. I'm Eddie Ferguson.
And I'm JB Wagner. And on today's episode, there are so many myths about the abdominal muscles. And today, we put those to rest in our review of Heavyweights. But first, Eddie, how's the family?
We are doing pretty good. I did have a question for you about 2-year-olds, the toddler phase. Lewis has latched on to a particular phrase that he just won't stop using and asking. And I didn't know if you guys had ever faced this in your toddler phases. So my mom, anytime somebody shows up, like she'll be like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" Is kind of like her, like, "Oh," you know. Lewis heard my mom say this a couple of times, and now everywhere we go, everything we do, "What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Daddy, what are we doing here? Daddy, what are we doing here? Daddy, what are we doing here?" So even like this past weekend, we went to Menards. So if you don't live in the Midwest, you are missing out. Menards is this amazing like hardware store, but it's more than a Home Depot.
It's more?
Yes, when you can buy like dog food and a 6-pack of soda and some crazy snack alongside your paint and lumber and... Oh, by the way, there's a huge clothing line up front.
Eddie, you can save big money at Menards.
Yes, there we go.
Save big money at Menards.
We're at Menards, which has everything. Like, there's just a crazy... Every time Lewis sees something new, he's like, "What's that doing here? What's that doing here? What's that doing here? What's that doing here?" I'm like, oh, it was cute like the first 5 times, and now it's... So,
I think that's unique.
Your kids have anything?
I think that's unique to Lewis. I think that's his.
Thanks.
That's his unique phrasing, I think.
But I mean, did your kids have any like phrase that they latched onto that they would just use and use and use?
I mean, our phrase right now is why. Everything is why. But he doesn't even really know why he's asking why. He just says it because he knows he didn't get what he wants. So he'll say, well, why? But then it never follows up with the second one. It's always just one why. So sometimes we're like, because we said so. And he doesn't do another one. It's just why. I'm waiting for the second why and the third why and the fourth why to be showing up soon.
Well, if you're wondering what we're doing here today, we start a new year as we walk through. So we are walking through all of the movies we grew up on from 1988 all the way till 2005. And today we hit a new year, the year of 1995. What do you remember about the year 1995? I was trying to think through this, if there was anything significant in our upbringing, our childhood, our friendship in the year 1995. And I couldn't think of anything distinct.
So this is we're 8 years old at this time around.
Yeah, we're now in third grade.
So third grade, some of the big milestones from Miss Sears.
Miss Sears was our teacher. Yes.
Started having more homework, which I was always trying to beat Justin to get done first, so I didn't have to do homework back home. But third grade was a big year because that was the year that I got glasses. It was ironic that I was wearing my glasses today because that's when I got. They were silver, I believe. I think they were either silver or gold rimmed, and one of the girls in our class drew a picture of me with gold rimmed or silver rimmed glasses. So that was it's a big moment.
That is a big milestone when you get glasses. I remember I was 6th grade when I got my glasses, and yeah. Do you have the notches behind your ears from wearing glasses for so long?
There are notches? There are physical notches behind the ears?
Yes. Well, you can wear contacts. When did you start wearing contacts?
I believe that I was in 5th grade, maybe.
Oh, okay. See, I can't wear contacts. I have a astigmatism type thing.
Yes.
And so I've always am wearing glasses. And because of that, right where your glasses like rest behind your ears, I actually have like little notches.
Oh.
Like the way that the bone formed, it formed around it.
That's crazy. No,
that's how long
I do not have that.
That's how long I've worn glasses.
I've had enough contacts so that which my contact just broke right before we got on here. That's why I'm wearing my glasses right now. I want to fish out new contacts.
We're glasses twins.
So Eddie, do you want to walk us through some of the political stuff that happened in 1995? I couldn't find a lot in this.
Well, Bill Clinton is still the president in 1995.
Coming off of his re-election campaign, correct? No, this is not quite. That's 96.
96 is when he would have run for re-election. No, the significant events that happened, you had the genocide in Rwanda that was going on, and conflicts in Bosnia, two kind of very distinct things that I actually do remember kind of slightly hearing about on the news and things reported on in 1995.
So we hit you with the hard stuff first. Then we're going to
segue.
We're going to segue this really nicely into the sports side of things. We have the 49ers won the Super Bowl. The Atlanta Braves won the World Series, is coming right off of the players' strike. The Houston Rockets won their second NBA championship. And this is because Michael Jordan decided to finally return to after his small 18-month hiatus from when he went out and played some baseball for a little bit. So this is Michael Jordan's return, but he didn't return quite in time to get back up to speed to beat the Rockets. So that's what happened in sports.
I remember because this was the second time the Rockets had won, so they had kind of a little bit of a run there. And if you remember, we had the basketball sports league.
Oh, yes.
And were we on the same team?
The next year we were the Rockets.
We were the Rockets.
Our fourth grade season.
Yeah.
First time playing basketball in a league, and they did not spread the wealth. They put all of the fourth graders that were not very good on
we
one
did not
team.
win a single game.
Nope.
A single game. And I'll tell you, that was my first and last time to play organized team sports.
You played organized frisbee, ultimate frisbee, haven't you?
Well, that was like intramurals in college.
That's organized, Eddie.
Okay. Okay, I'll give you that. But I mean, this
traditional sports,
where you have like a team roster and like everybody's got the same jersey or T-shirt or whatever it was in that time. And yes,
it was T-shirts at the time. Let's not kid ourselves.
We were bad. We were really bad. Yeah, but wasn't bad was the best picture of that year. One of my personal favorites, Forrest Gump. I love that movie. Tom Hanks, he actually won Best Actor for that movie as well that year.
But he was not done with that year either.
No, big year for him, right? Because later on...
Peak Tom Hanks right here.
1995 was also when we get the first feature-length computer animated movie, Toy Story, which we will be reviewing here in a few weeks on our podcast. So, yes. Now, there's a few things in here, you put in here the top song, the number one song or the Grammy song. I've never heard of this. Kiss from a Rose. I
don't know any of the words to the song. I'm sure if my wife were here right now, she could sing all of them. The only reason I know this is because I had to look it up. It's by Seal.
Okay, as soon as you give the melody, it's like, yes, okay, I've totally.
What's also great is if you go look it up. If you go look it up, the music video is actually from the Batman movie that year,
like the Michael Keaton
Batman Forever or whatever. It opens up with the Batmobile driving off down an alleyway. So it's very fun.
I'm gonna have to watch this. Are we talking Michael Keaton Batman or Are we George Clooney?
I don't remember if this is Batman with the nipples or not. I'm not sure. I can't
let's
remember.
hope that it is Keaton. He was one of my favorites.
This would have been another one of what's his name's big movies that we just covered, his Nightmare Before Christmas.
Tim Burton.
Burton. This would have been one of the Tim Burton ones.
Well, yes, because that's why he pretty much only put his name on Nightmare Before Christmas, because he was busy doing all of that. Let me tell you what I remember the most about 1995, okay? And that is Windows 95. Because I think this was like the first computer operating system that
you ever used?
I remember, I ever used, at least on a regular basis. I can't think of too much before that.
There's definitely some really, really, really old computers that I had to play with.
Sure.
Growing up in a tech household, I don't know if it was DOS or what. There was a lot of stuff that I didn't know how to work on any of that stuff. So,
do you remember you'd have to enter the codes in computer class, and then DOS?
Windows 95 was a big deal. This was really where Windows took off and started to put its stake in the ground.
Yes.
Some other things that happened that year. This was the O.J. Simpson verdict. 150 million people watched O.J. become acquitted. Is that the right word? Am I the right? Okay, cool. Another thing I should have my wife here to explain to me as she watched all of her murder shows. He was acquitted.
Murder shows and podcasts.
Murder shows and podcasts.
We're below all those podcasts, though. Right, like she's got to listen to all of her murder podcasts first.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
She has to fit our podcast into all of her regularly scheduled podcasts. So hopefully we'll find in there soon.
Which is appropriate. It's appropriate.
And we have a couple. This must have been the year of bombings, because there was also the Oklahoma City bombing. Was this year, as well as this is the year that the New York Times and Washington Post both published the Unabombers manifesto. I think it was like 35,000 words or something. Manifesto in the Washington Post and the New York Times. So big year for conflicts and Unabombers and software and movies.
Yeah. No, I mean, the Oklahoma City bombing was big. I remember that just kind of like slowing the world down to a halt. If I look back on my childhood, the events that I just remember dominating, this was one of the first ones. You have the Columbine shooting. And then, of course, 9/11 right at the beginning of high school for us. Those were big events that nobody knew how to process, and everything just kind of stopped, and you just sat in front of your TV trying to process it.
There's a lot of things that happened in our childhood and growing up. I think I was just reading a New York Times, or I don't think I even read the article, but the article said millennials, the most unlucky generation, ? Now, we didn't have to go fight in a world war, so I don't know if that trumps what we had to experience. But
yeah, but most millennials were the ones who went and fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. We also, when a lot of millennials were trying to hit the workforce, that's when the Great Recession was happening. So
I just remember my dad talking about the draft with Vietnam, being in and
definitely
around
not that
time.
level.
We have the world wars before that. It's hard to compare the two, but you're right. Just sheer number of giant incidents that we were all aware of, and because of social media and because of news, full-time news, the internet, we had more access to more of that information versus just reading about it in the newspaper. But Eddie,
which is all the more reason why we needed lighthearted, fun Disney movies.
If you are worried about continuing this podcast on the note that we have left you at, do not fear, because we are going to change everything right now with this very podcast, because today's movie, it's a special one. It's a different thing, and you know what, Eddie, we're gonna do it together. So
Cue the Disney sound effect.
Well, I didn't get in the actual title of the name. We gotta say
that's
it.
Right. I was just so excited.
So excited for Lars to jump in here as our new friend and counselor. What movie we're talking about today is the 1995 hit Heavyweights.
Cue the Disney sound effect. All right, give us the IMDb description. Will it live up to the movie?
This is kind of interesting. Okay. Plump kids are lured into joining a posh fat camp with the promise of quick weight loss and good times. We're not done. Only to find that the facility is a woodland hellhole run by a psycho ex-fitness instructor. Eddie,
anything that starts with plump.
Plump kids are lured. This is on another level. We've had really bad ones. I think last week we had a very solid, very minimalist. This is exactly what you need to know for this. We've had random question mark ones. This is on another plane. This
has so many adjectives and descriptors. I mean, woodland hellhole. What a wonderful descriptor of this camp.
The promise of quick weight loss and good times. I'm surprised they didn't get the Blob into this explanation. I'm surprised at that, but we can all assume that good times is because of the Blob. But anyways,
I didn't know that Tony was an ex-fitness instructor. Somehow I didn't pick up on that in watching this again.
I don't know. I mean, he is a aficionado.
It makes sense.
I don't know.
He's not very successful.
No, he is not very successful. That is true. But anyways, Eddie, was this a constant in your home? Did you rewatch this a lot?
I wouldn't say that it was a constant, but it was one that we had watched several times growing up. Okay. And it's one that I quote a lot. And definitely when in college, when I was a summer camp counselor, I would use some of Lars' lines quite a lot. And every once in a while, you'd have a camper who would be like, "Is that from Heavyweights?" And you're like, "You're going to be my favorite camper of the week." But yeah, how about you? Had you guys?
This was a late one for me. I did not see this. I want to say I don't think I saw this really until maybe either junior high or high. I think it was high school. I don't think I saw this until high school when people were quoting it in high school, and finally someone introduced me to this movie. So I came to it very late.
I remember coming back and revisiting this in middle school and high school for sure. Because it's a very it's a very quotable movie.
Very quotable movie.
And I think that's what one of your kind of qualifications for the cult classic movies,
Yep.
You just got to be able to throw those one-liners out there, and this is shall we say plump with one-liners?
Ooh, that's a good one. It is packed. Some of the memories that I have, the things that I remember when I was even just thinking about rewatching this again is when they are hiding all the candy
in the opening scene,
every spot, and it is still so. So we had a funny moment when they're unloading all the candy, and the one kid lifts up his shirt. And he's like, "Oh, the bus was hotter than I thought," and the other kid like licks it. My son even cringed at it. He was just like, "Ew!" Like he knew that was not what you do to another human being. You don't. Yeah, it's just weird. No. But that was one of the things I remembered. Lars, of course, who has so many one-liners, which we need to carve out some time just for Lars alone.
Just for Lars.
Those are a couple of the big ones that I remember. But where they hit all the candy. Yes.
I love the opening of this movie, like just the opening sequence when you're following Gerald, right? Is that the kid's name?
Sure, we'll go with Gerald.
I can't believe I'm forgetting the main character's first name there for a second.
Nick.
Jerry. Yes, Jerry. Jerry Gardner. There we go.
That's right.
So I deeply connected with Jerry at the opening of the movie in this one particular scene and moment when he's, it's the end of school. And I love that scene where it's like the final day of school and all the papers and like
they're trashing the school. Who does that? That is not a real thing.
I have some memories of like middle school where we would get a little crazy at the last day of school. Like
this
you
is
remember
just
that
out and out trashing the entire.
But you remember
school.
that feeling, right? Like watching that clock click down and knowing like summer is almost here. Yeah. Now we're not going to break into the High School Musical 2 song at this point, but. The scene that I deeply resonate so much with is when he's walking home and he walks by you already know what I'm going to say.
Yep.
And he walks by the baseball diamond and the ball rolls right in front of him and he tries to throw it and it hits the fence and rolls back and you're like, oh, poor kid, poor buddy. And he picks it up and he throws it and he does it again. And then he picks it up again and he tries to he goes up to the fence and tries to
push
roll
it
over the top, and he can't get it. That is so funny to me, mainly because I'm like Jerry. I have no athletic abilities whatsoever. I tried out for the baseball team in 5th grade, and I stepped up to the bat first time ever in my life, and the pitcher hits me square in the arm with the ball. And I just threw the bat and went, nope, I'm done. Yep, this isn't for me. And I walked away and I remember Mr. Shepard being like, seriously? Are you sure? I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. No.
That is amazing.
I don't want to do this. So when I see Jerry not even able to throw the ball over the fence, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna love this kid. I'm gonna deeply resonate with him.
Their promotional video was just on another level. It was so good.
Jeffrey Tambor, right? That the dad. As soon as you see him,
Jeffrey Tambor,
yeah, Jeffrey Tambor. Sorry,
he's got some great lines when he comes to pick him up at the end. When he's like, "You look exactly like we did when we left you off. What have you been doing?" Yes, no, the video themselves and how he keeps referring to himself as I'm Pat. You may know me from the camp video over and over and over again. But when he comes to pick up the kids that first time, he's like opens up. I'm like, I'm looking for some portly individuals. Want to come on this trip with me? And then when he's driving them and that whole sequence where you can see all of the fast food signs and he's just like, the kid's like, stop here. It's like, no.
Oh, he pulls the bus.
No. And he pulls over. That I love that moment.
So let's talk about the moment when they get off the bus and we meet one of the counselors, Tim, who is the success story. What are your thoughts on Tim's outfit in this scene?
It's special. The high shorts, the whole thing he's got going on,
like the bare midriff jersey.
Mm-hmm.
No,
well, you know who that is, right? That's Paul Feige. Paul Feige, who goes on to direct many, many more comedies that are in all the wheelhouse of the Judd Apatow universe.
And he was a writer on several episodes of The Office, Arrested Development.
He did Bridesmaids and several other comedies.
Did so many things like that.
And it was funny because he started off as that like iconic 90s character.
Yeah.
And then he went on like kind of like the school teacher style, like not really an imposing person. And then he goes on to do all the directing and stuff like that.
Well, he makes an appearance in my favorite movie of all time, forever and ever. That Thing You Do. He is the disc jockey from LA. And yes, even in in his like 90 seconds in that movie, he's hilarious. So Yes,
funny.
so it is pretty funny. What so yes, we have the whole scene where they unload all of the candy and everything, but then we get the what I believe is the cinematic debut of Ben Stiller.
Is this really? This can't be.
I'm pretty certain, like, at least this was like his first big one. He may have had some smaller appearances prior to that. Yeah, he did some like some small things.
I'm trying to look this up right now because I mean he's in a lot of things, all the way up to Reality Bites. I think probably would have been a little bit bigger than this, but so that really is his like dramatic debut. But you're right, he goes from a Reality Bites to Heavyweights. That's a big change.
But then he then he goes on and he does Happy Gilmore. He does The Cable Guy, which is a big one. Zoolander. Like, he definitely Meet the Parents is in 2000. So I mean, this was.
I see on here one of his credits from Friends. That character he plays in Friends, where he's the guy that has like a short fuse and just like goes off on people, is just great. That's one of the great. And then they can never catch him, or they can never catch him doing it. Only Chandler can. And then he just like just loses it on people. That's great. No, you're right. He does go on to have he's starting to build his resume all the way up until he gets to Meet the Parents, is really where he is. That's kind of his top, peak. Yeah. That's his pink.
Well, and this is, sets himself out there as kind of that crazy, slightly off-tilter comedic character. That he does so well.
And then I feel like he spent the rest, after that peak was over, he spent the rest of the last however many years trying to make us believe, no, I really am a serious actor. Because he's done so many things since then where he's very calm, chill guy. But man, the amount of credits that he has in here is just astounding.
Yeah.
It's astounding. Even just like things of like Anchorman and Dodgeball and Envy and like all of these just random films that he was leading in the 2000s. Just insane. Or basically middle of there all the way through the end of the 2000s. It's nuts.
Now after this moment is when we meet arguably the one-liner, dare I say, best character of this film, at least the one with the most quotable lines, and that, of course, is Lars.
Our new friend and counselor. I'm your
new friend and counselor. That, I would say,
I'm feeling
at the beginning
skinny, Tony.
Well, did we just write all of the same ones down as we were just like going on?
100% we did. We'll do it together.
So my common ones I go to all the time is I'm your new friend and counselor. But I would love the buddy.
Oh yeah,
buddy.
We use that all the time.
We use that all the time. Yes.
Don't pee in the water. Don't drink in the water. He peed in it. And then when they kidnap him, it's great. It's so much fun.
Oh, such a great, such a fun, great character there. It's just hilarious. Yeah. I'm glad you picked up on I'm feeling skinny, Tony.
This is why I watched this in high school, because I would just hear random people in the middle of the hallway just yell out these lines from this film, because everyone was, for some odd reason, decided, hey, we're just going to rewatch Heavyweights, and it fits whatever we're doing right now. So you just be walking down. It's like, we're going to do it together. It's like, where did this come from? What is happening right now?
I love the Lars. Lars, what kind of name, what kind of name is that? Where are you from? And he just steps in and he's like, far away.
Away. And then he's like part of the gang at the very end.
Yes, which is fun.
Hey, Lars, if you don't, without Tony here, you don't have a job and they're going to deport you. So you're going to join our side? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so many great things. I loved I'm trying to look at my list here. I've loved the scene where he's doing like the mid-camp weigh-in and he's having all the kids.
That's a great moment.
And he's like, step on the scale. Alrighty, step off the scale. As they're trying to weigh everybody in. It's just, that I think that's where you see the Ben Stiller genius of just being on that hair trigger, right? Like, just those characters that he does, you just feel that they're about to just like go off at any moment. And and it's so rewarding that you feel that whole way through the movie. And then you get that scene at the end where he's like laughing at the end of the film in the gym and he's up in the window or whatever. In the rafters. And he does this like crazy flip all the way down and boom, hits the floor and he's like, ow.
He like throws
the glasses and he's walking on the glass. And then he does the back flips all the way and then slips and hits his head. Like all of it is just, I love that just off the tilter, just kind of little unhinged.
The thing I had more appreciation for this time, this much later, was his whole opening just opening presentation where he's in peak put together salesman mode, like inspirational salesman mode. And it's bad and it's great at the same time. But his whole rant about, I was born an only child with tons of private tutors and I'm excited to finally interact with kids. Just like things like that. I eat success for breakfast. Like he believes it and also doesn't believe it at the same time. There's so many great little things in that whole opening montage where it's like, what is going on? This is going to end so badly.
We've got to talk montages because we are a huge fan of montages.
Yep.
What the food feast
fire montage.
The fire montage when they're all
that's on the Mount Rushmore best montages.
When we should make we should have the Mount Rushmore episode where we make our Mount Rushmores of everything.
We have multiple mountains all over the place.
Yes, when they're just kind of what is it, the human s'more, and that's kind of one of my favorite lines as well. When they've kind of at the end of it, they finish this night of indulgence or whatever, and they're all laying on the floor, and Pat gets up and he's like, "What have we learned about this?" And the one kid's like, "Never put a Twinkie on your pizza."
I did find it really funny that they were like, they obviously were thinking, what would be an amazing point, like amazing moment, a scene that we could have? What if it's just like these kids have been starved for forever and then they finally get to go crazy and just like food, candy everywhere. It's like, okay, let's do that. Oh, well, we should probably have like a good moral to this whole thing. And so they try really hard to turn it into this whole personal responsibility thing. And it is so half-baked, so bad. It is, there's really no rationale for it whatsoever. Them trying to make this, oh, well, in the end, like, we each got to take our own person. It's like, no, that's not what they've been saying this whole film. This whole film is like, we just want to eat what we want to eat. Let us have our fun and let us do whatever we want to. And
they have the class with the nurse about like, what is a tomato? And let's make a primavera pasta together. Like,
which is kind of funny because if that's one thing. I mean, there's many things that would be different. I don't think I'm ready yet to talk about what would be different if this made in 2021. We need to save that. We need like to carve out some time just for how this film would be different.
Let's just put it out there. You were talking about how they kind of created the montage there in the middle. This whole movie is a obvious like studio going, hey, we had the Mighty Ducks. Let's pull that guy back in because this was written and directed by the same guy who did the Mighty Ducks. Those three kids were funny from the Mighty Ducks. Let's pull them back in.
Keaton and Goldberg.
Yes, and then even the main character, Jerry, is from the first Mighty Ducks.
Oh.
So it's like this, this is just that kind of 90s lower mid-range budget films that Disney was putting together, of just saying, hey, this doesn't have to be crazy successful. It's just got to make us a couple $1 million. So what's the formula? Let's just kind of click it in here. And it really is. It's in that kind of same, you've got the blank check crazy premise, and then you've got the Mighty Ducks one-liners, shticks going on. And then let's just kind of layer them all together and, we'll figure it out. There's so many moments in this where I kind of felt like, did they come up with this little sequence or this little thing just while they're out there filming? Like, for example, one of my favorite moments of this is the kids breaking into Tony's office while Ben Stiller is going out for his run, while Tony's going out for his run. That on paper should just be... That's not interesting. Like, that's not a compelling, beat in the story whatsoever.
Yeah.
But you throw Ben Stiller at that, where he's going for this run in the woods and he's picking up random logs and be like, you stupid log, and he's just hamming it up, just having a blast with it. And then the kids are doing the same thing in there. Like that's what this movie is. It's just, hey, let's just throw enough people at this kind of crazy scenario. We got a couple of good one-liners in the script, and we'll make sure we hit those, and let's just play it and make it happen. And that's kind of how this whole movie comes together.
Yeah, it's laughable when they try to make this have a moral to this, because there's really not. No. There's really no moral to this other than don't be Tony. Eddie, this is the unintended moral consequences. Do not force kids to eat right.
Right.
And work out, because you will get kidnapped and be put in an electric fence.
So that's a funny moment, though, right? Like when they've got him all locked up in the fence and he takes the little foil and makes it look like
a little kiss for you.
A little Hershey kiss.
A little Hershey kiss for you.
This is one of those movies where they're just kind of piecing it all together because they didn't know how to end it, right? No. So how do they end it? The freeze frame.
I've got it down here.
You know what I mean?
It's the biggest cop-out in all of cinema for ending a film, is just get to the finish line and then they have nothing else to say. They just freeze frame. And I knew it. I was sitting there. I had forgotten about it, but I'm like, I bet you they're just going to freeze frame. There's nothing else to do. Yep, there they went. They just did the freeze frame.
Which, while we're on the subject of freeze frame, can we just have a little detour here on The Prisoner of Azkaban? Why does it end in a freeze frame? Like, remember Harry's flying on the hippogriff, Buckbeak? Yep. And it just kind of freeze frame.
That's not Eddie.
And his head's
It's not the hippogriff. He's riding his brand new Firebolt. Because remember his Nimbus 2000 gets destroyed in the Whomping Willow.
Forgive me.
So he doesn't have it, and he gets that in the mail. So that's the send-off.
But it has Buckbeak's feather with it, so he knows that it's coming from Sirius.
Yeah, so you were close. You were wrong, but you were close. I've seen it way too many times.
It ends in the freeze frame, and I'm like, no.
Ah! His face is just distorted from the motion blur.
This would be a perfect movie if you didn't use the freeze frame.
That was sad that they used.
Yes, so
that they used
this movie. That. So to have to compare Prisoner of Azkaban to Heavyweights just because of a silly freeze frame ending is unnecessary. Alfonso Cuarón could have figured out an easier way to end Prisoner of Azkaban. Now this movie, it kind of deserved a freeze frame ending.
It deserved it. It had earned that. Because it's coming right off of one of the worst ending lines with Pat saying, he's like, "Man, what are you doing? You crazy? You bet I'm crazy. Crazy about my gal." Smooch. Then it's 3 seconds later, it's the freeze frame ending. It's just all kinds of cringe.
Well, and I don't understand the whole Apache relay thing, because it's is it a relay? Because you get to the next thing and then they like wait for the other team and then they start the next leg. And it's like, no, I thought a relay was like, you just keep going at.
It counts. I think it counts because you've got one person doing a section. They hand the baton to the next person who has to, or like tag the next person who continues on.
So why do they start the go-karts at the same time?
Because they arrived at the same time. Because that's when they had caught up. By that point, they had caught up, so they both get in the go-karts at the same time. Because even though they were ahead in the front section, they get caught up because of the Hall
of Intellect or something.
Hall of Intellect or whatever, and because he knew more of the vice presidents, which he named not a lot. I could not think of very many vice presidents when he was sending them off. So.
Oh, really? Oh,
I'm sure you had them all memorized. And
I'm a weird person. See, I'm bad at sports, so I have to be good at something. So vice presidential history is what I chose.
You probably also knew that was the Mona Lisa too.
Oh goodness! So
are we ready to rate this thing?
I think we are.
Should we do something different than fruit snacks because this is such a food oriented?
Well, then maybe fruit snacks would be
perfect.
appropriate.
It's perfect.
Yeah. I think I would give this a 2.5, 3.
Eddie, I have a confession to make for you.
Oh.
I fell asleep watching this film.
It does have a weird slow moment. Yeah.
This Saturday afternoon, it was. I think I missed rewatching The Weigh-In. It was right around that time, and I woke back up as they are all on the hiking trip.
Yeah.
When he's they're coming back down and they've finally caught him. That's kind of around the time that I woke back up. And I think if you're gonna fall asleep watching a film,
well,
it doesn't bode well.
As you're telling that, I remember right after we got married, there was a couple of these kind of Disney movies that Sarah had never seen.
Yeah.
This and like Mighty Ducks, The Rocketeer being another one. And I was like, oh, you have to watch these. And so we're like going through. And this one, I actually got like 15, 20 minutes into it. And I was like, yeah, never mind. We'll watch it another time. And we never went back to watch it.
Once Lars gets all of his great one-liners out, the buddy system, right after the buddy system, literally, that's where my notes change. Right after there's buddy system and then nothing, then it's kidnapping Tony. Like literally, that's where there's this missing section in the middle. And
I'm going to amend. I'm going to just say a 2. Let's just say 2 fruit snacks.
I'm going to say a 2 as well. Purely, let me say this. You probably could just watch clips on YouTube of this film. I don't think you really need to, because there's no plot worth watching. Yeah, you could just watch the highlights. I'm going to give this a 1.5, just because you could go watch the highlights. You could literally listen to this podcast and we could tell you all the highlights. You do not need to watch this film. It's not. It's really not worth watching.
Which is fascinating, right? Because this is written by Judd Apatow, who goes on to be arguably one of the best comedic writers of the past 2-3 decades.
He cemented himself really quickly after this.
Well, his next big project after this is Freaks and Geeks, which is what really puts him on the map.
Yep. This is not his best work.
I don't think he would say that either.
No, not his best stuff, but you gotta start from somewhere, and he took it from there. Okay, I was alluding to it earlier. Now let's talk about this movie in 2021.
It's just
Is there any way
going to be made? No, there's no way this premise even gets out of the pitch room.
It doesn't get out of someone's mouth. Like, no, I got this great idea.
You're fired for even saying.
I got this great idea. Oh yeah, what do you got? So there's a fat camp for kids. You're fired. You're fired. It's never going to happen. Not in the post Michelle Obama world of health and fitness. Not when there's no way Netflix is going to green light this while they're also green lighting Waffles and Mochi, that new show by Michelle Obama that she's also in, where it's like teaching kids about food. Like,
yeah,
never going to happen ever.
Well, we can't even have Weight Watchers anymore. It has to be called WW. So it's like, yeah, this
too much fat shaming. Like, no, there's not going to be any. I'm looking for some portly individual. No, portly is out of there. Not even this description. Plump kids.
And let's be honest.
It's never going to happen.
This definitely pushes the line of over highlighting childhood obesity.
Yeah, a little bit.
Not just a little bit. A lot.
I would love to know how they cast this. Did they just like take all the kids that they could find, or were there kids that did not make the cut when they were like casting this thing?
So I was reading an article, and let me remember the kid's name. The kid who's Goldberg in Mighty Ducks, who's also in this. I can't remember the actor's name. He actually turned it down, and Disney made it a part of his contract in order to appear in Mighty Ducks 3.
Seriously?
Yeah. In order for him to appear in Mighty Ducks 3, he had to also do this movie, and that's the only reason why he did this.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, that's rough.
If you wanna see someone who must have taken
Sean Weiss.
Yeah. If you want to find somebody who basically did a 180 from this film, the lead character Jerry, just look up Aaron Schwartz.
Yes.
He got jacked very quickly. It must have been very quickly, because I'm seeing some of his stuff, and it's like even some of his younger like teenage photos, and he just got cut.
Yeah.
Because he was like, yeah, I'm the poster child for a fat camp movie. I probably need to take some of those earnings that I made off this film and work out a little bit. Because it's a night and day difference. Granted, you got when you're a little kid versus when you become a teenager and hormones and everything else. But just looking at him, I'm like, dang, like he changed his life. Probably because this film changed somebody's life.
Did it change your life, JB?
No, it did not. Although I am so excited about all of the stuff, all of the one-liners from this film. But
it is a good quotable movie that's why it is. Now, the Wikipedia article gives it the title of a cult classic. I'm not sure if I would give that. The articles that they referenced for it, I'm like, okay, maybe, but I don't know if I would go as far as to call this a cult classic.
Yeah, probably not.
It's got a little bit of a, let's say, a cult following, but I don't know about a cult classic. So
yeah, I don't think so either. But
yes,
that is here nor there, because we have come to the end of this episode, and we are so thankful that you, like a cult follower, have been following us. And we also hope that you will go and follow this show, Honey, We Made a Disney Podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts. Eddie, next week's movie that we are going to be reviewing is
Man of the House.
And I cannot for the life of me remember if I've actually watched this film or if I've just seen the trailer for it so many times, because it's at the beginning of every other Disney film that came out on VHS this year. So I literally can't remember if I've actually seen this film.
Yes, I was trying to recall it. I can't remember either. So this is going to be an interesting review. I think it might end up being one of those that we go, oh yeah, that movie.
Yeah. Or I just remember the moments from the trailer and try to piece together. But it is the first live action with my wife's favorite, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. So she's going to be very excited I'm sure she'll want to. She's let me rewatch a lot of these by myself. I think she's going to want to watch this with us. So.
For sure. Well, thank you for tuning in. I have got to figure out what am I doing here before Lewis asks me again.
And I've been inspired to throw away all Twinkies. Thanks for watching.